Evil never ends, it just takes new forms. Welcome back to Plot Explained, where we're moving through the Conjuring Universe. If this is your first time here, know this. We're breaking down the entire Conjuring timeline, scene by scene, film by film, following the evil as it spreads across decades. We began with the Nun, deep in the heart of Romania, where the demon Valak first made its presence known. Then we shifted to Annabelle Creation, where another haunting began in a dollmaker's house. Different locations, different evils, but all part of the same cursed timeline, the same dark universe that slowly pulls everything into its grip. And now, we return to where it all began. The Nun II picks up years after the Abbey of St. Carta, as whispers of demonic activity begin surfacing once again, this time, far from Romania, in the heart of France. And Valak? It's not done, it's growing stronger. This breakdown is part of an ongoing series, so if you haven't watched the previous chapters, I highly recommend starting there. These stories are designed to interlock, and I'm building them as one continuous chain. So if you're enjoying this deep dive breakdown series, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Alright, the lights are low, the church bells are ringing, and evil is stirring once again. Let's begin the Nun II. We open in France, 1956. A young boy kicks a ball down a cobblestone street, chasing it all the way to a centuries-old church. Inside, a calm priest sends him to fetch wine from the cellar. Downstairs, the boy retrieves the flask. Everything feels normal, for now. He returns just as Mass begins. Candles flicker, the prayer starts, routine, but uneasy, like something unseen is watching. After the service, the boy heads back down to return the flask. This time, something's off. His ball is now sitting on a stool. He kicks it, it rolls into the dark hallway, and disappears. He places the flask back. Suddenly, it rolls back out, slow, deliberate. He kicks it again, gone. Then, the wine flask shatters behind him. Startled, the boy runs to the priest, panicked. Together, they re-enter the sanctuary. Empty, still, cold. Then the holy water begins to ripple, boil, evaporate. Through the mist, she appears. Valak, the nun. She doesn't move, but her presence suffocates. The priest begins to seize, levitates, arms stretched in a cross, and bursts into flames. The boy watches in terror. Outside we see a man walking away from the church. On the wall behind him, the nun's shadow stretches, towering and still, before slowly vanishing. Now we go to Italy. A peaceful convent. Sister Irene has been living quietly since St. Carta. But peace never lasts long. Mother Superior asks her to speak with Sister Deborah, a novice who won't attend confession. Deborah is sharp, skeptical, less traditional. Irene listens without judgment. The conversation is honest. Eventually, Deborah agrees to go, just to keep peace. There's something about Irene that makes her listen. Later, the nuns sit together, whispering about St. Carta, about the deaths, some self-inflicted. Irene enters quietly, places something on the table, and listens in silence. They speak of a priest and a nun sent to investigate. The priest became a bishop. The nun? Vanished. Some say she went mad. Was locked in an asylum. Irene hears this, says nothing. She silently walks away. Deborah notices. Now shift to France, a girls' boarding school. Among the staff is Frenchie, or Maurice now. He's the handyman, warm, beloved, especially by Sophie, a curious young girl. Her mother Kate teaches there. The three share a small, glowing bond. Sophie gives Maurice a friendship bracelet. He smiles, touched. A soft moment, until elsewhere, a delivery girl knocks on a storage room door. No answer. As she turns to leave, it creaks open. She hesitates, steps in, drops the supplies, and walks back out. That's when she hears it. A choking sound echoes down the corridor. She follows it, and finds Maurice, silently facing a mirror. He doesn't respond. Then, a pale hand reaches from the wall. And there she is, the nun. Just half her face, barely visible, but unmistakable. Maurice turns, but it's too late. As the girl tries to run, the nun fully emerges. The door slams shut. Valak grabs her, lifts her with inhuman strength, and snaps her neck. Back at the convent, night falls. Sister Irene tosses in bed. Suddenly, she sees Mother Superior whispering, "Someone is here to meet her." Irene walks through the dim corridors. Lights flicker. Then behind her, Maurice. Pale, veins crawling across his skin. His voice cracks. "Help me." He shakes and screams. Irene jolts awake. A dream, but it felt real. Her nose is bleeding. Deborah comforts her. The next morning, Irene prays alone. Mother Superior enters again. Someone is really here this time. Outside, a car waits. Inside the common room, Irene meets the cardinal and a deacon. Deborah's also there. The deacon lays out photos. Nuns dead by suicide, priests mutilated, all tied to one place, Romania. The evil from Saint Carta has escaped. They want Irene to investigate. She refuses, tells them to ask Father Burke. But he's dead. Irene's the only one left who faced it. Later, Irene boards a train to France. As the countryside passes, Deborah appears, uninvited. Irene warns her of the danger, but Deborah insists. She needs to witness a miracle to restore her fading faith. Elsewhere, at the boarding school, Kate teaches when Maurice comes to fix a cupboard. She gives the girls a small break and sends Sophie to her office with books. There, 3 older girls intercept Sophie and convince her to follow them. They lead her to the abandoned chapel, chained off, forbidden. Inside, a large statue covered in a white sheet. As they move past it, the statue's head turns slightly. In the main hall, the girls point to a stained glass window of a demonic goat. When the light hits just right, the devil stares back. Sophie stands before it, its eyes glow red. Don't look away, they warn. Then they run, leaving her alone. The wind howls, the glow fades, and behind Sophie stands the nun. Panic sets in. Sophie rushes to the door, but the girls lock her in. The statue begins to move. The sheet slips, revealing a twisted face, Valak. The statue crashes down and shatters. Then the door bursts open, and it's Maurice. Sophie bolts out. He yells at the bullies, furious. Kate arrives and takes Sophie away. Meanwhile, Irene and Deborah arrive in Tarascon, the town from the film's opening. A local nun leads them through the church. On the chapel steps, black scorch marks, the exact place the priest died. Ash begins to fall. Irene touches it, and the atmosphere shifts. A charred figure appears before her, upright, still. She gasps and turns. Now it's the boy from the beginning, standing calmly with a rosary. Before she can react, Deborah calls out. The vision vanishes. They move deeper inside, and stop at a painting of St. Lucy. Irene explains the story of St. Lucy, a young girl who refused to renounce her faith. They took her eyes, tried to burn her, but the flames never touched her. She became the patron saint of sight. They're led into the church office. Sparse, quiet. Irene asks about the boy. The nun says he hasn't spoken since that night. His mother won't let him talk about it, but he's often seen outside. They ask if anyone else was there. She recalls a handyman, a traveler from Romania. That stops Irene. The nun doesn't remember his name, just a nickname. Irene says it with her, Frenchie. We see a flashback, a train station, shortly after Saint Carta. Maurice tells Irene he's heading to Hungary, then wherever the road takes him. She thanks him for saving her. He says they're bonded, in life debt now. Irene hands him tomato seeds. He once said he wanted to be a farmer. This was her gift for that future. Back in the present, Irene comes outside the church, shaken by the realization she just had. Deborah asks who Frenchie is. Irene answers softly, Maurice. He was their guide in Romania, the one who saved her. But her voice darkens. That's when the demon took him. Cut to Maurice tending a small tomato garden at the school. Kate thanks him for protecting Sophie. He asks why the chapel's always locked. Kate says it was bombed during the war. The principal's son died there. An altar boy. They spot Sophie watching from the window. Kate brushes off Sophie's teasing and calls her along. Sophie lingers a second longer, watching Maurice scare off some crows. Then he suddenly freezes. His shovel drops to the ground. Something feels wrong. Sophie heads inside and calls for Kate. No response. She searches upstairs. A door creaks shut behind her. She turns, opens it, and finds a strange hallway instead of a dusty storage room. At the far end, standing motionless, the nun. Suddenly, crows scream from the shadows and rush past. Sophie looks again, and the hallway is gone. Just an old storage room now. She bolts down the stairs, but halfway down, she stops. The nun stands below, but as light spills in, she sees the truth. It's not Valak. Just a peeling wall, its stains resembling a face in the dark. Kate asks her, "What are you doing up there?" Sophie doesn't answer. Elsewhere, Irene and Deborah arrive at a modest hotel. The clerk says there's no reservation under their name. Deborah steps in to handle it. Irene walks outside. A group of boys runs past, playing football. One stops to tie his shoe. Irene freezes. It's the boy from the church. The witness. She gently approaches, asks if he had the rosary that night. He says it wasn't his, it belonged to the priest. Before she can ask more, the boys run off. She chases after, but when she turns the corner, they're gone. Empty streets, silence. She wanders deeper into the quiet alleys, and then sees him again. Alone, he kicks the ball down an alley. Irene follows, calling out. He disappears around a wall covered in old posters. She reaches it, but he's gone. A gust of wind hits. The magazines begin fluttering. Pages turn, faster and faster, then stop. Together, they form a single image, the nun. Built from paper and shadow. Irene steps back, stunned. She turns, but no one's there. As she turns back and walks close to the wall, Valak bursts through the collage, grabbing her by the throat. Her eyes roll back. She's pulled into a vision. A figure in white kneels. Another, in red, stabs it through the eyes. A third appears, cloaked in blue, holding a strange circular box. Their eyes glow. It's her, Irene, but what it means, she doesn't know. The vision ends. Irene collapses, unconscious in the alley. Moments later, Deborah finds her, panicked, calling for help. Back at the boarding school, the principal prays alone, until she hears something. Down the hall, Maurice stands still, outside the chapel, as if sleepwalking. She approaches. He turns, dazed, unsure how he got there. Apologizing, he walks away. Then, the chained chapel door creaks open slightly. A child's laughter echoes from within. Curious, she unchains the door and steps inside. A boy runs through the chapel. She follows. In the main hall, strange whispers and wind echo around her. Then, we see him, her son, dressed as an altar boy, holding a bell. He rings it, and vanishes. She spins, the bell clatters. Then it's dragged across the floor violently. The boy stands on the other side. But he's not alone. Behind him, Valak, a hand on the boy's shoulder. The possessed child attacks, striking his mother with the bell. She stumbles into a wooden frame. A rusted hook above her snaps, and falls. She dies instantly. The next morning, Irene is resting in her hotel room. A doctor checks her. Deborah watches over her. Irene wakes, and remembers everything. She tells Deborah, Valak is after something. A relic. It's keeping Maurice alive, using him to find it. Once it gets what it wants. Maurice is dead. Deborah adds, Jack came by earlier and left something. The priest's rosary. Irene examines it. There's a strange symbol on the cross. Deborah recognizes it. It matches a photo from another haunting. The same symbol. Another case. Maybe they're connected. Irene realizes, if they follow the symbol, they might find where Valak is going. She knows someone in the Catholic archives who can help. Meanwhile, Kate finds the chapel door open. Inside, the principal's lifeless body. Police arrive. As they leave, Kate turns to Maurice, shaken. Sophie is missing. Maurice puts a hand on her shoulder. I'll find her, he says. Maurice wanders the quiet school halls. He spots the cellar door ajar and heads down. In the basement, he finds Sophie sitting alone. She whispers, something's wrong. Something that doesn't belong. Maurice gently reassures her. Her mother's worried. That night, Irene and Deborah head to the Catholic archives. Inside, they meet a librarian who recognizes the rosary immediately. The symbol on it? It's St. Lucy's family crest. The victims, they're all her descendants. Suddenly, everything clicks. Valak isn't killing randomly. It's hunting Lucy's bloodline. It wants her eyes. The librarian explains. Valak was once an angel, cast out by God. It envied the divine gifts given to saints, especially St. Lucy's. Her eyes hold divine power. If Valak gets them, it will be unstoppable. But in the right hands, that power could defeat it. There's just one clue. A priest once buried the relic in his monastery. That monastery is now a boarding school. Irene and Deborah rush out. On the way, Irene shares something personal. Her mother had visions too. She was taken away and never came back. Back at the school, Maurice, Kate, and Sophie are dancing, laughing. Then, Maurice collapses, trembling. The inverted cross is back on his neck. Behind Sophie, a painting morphs into the nun. Maurice sees it and panics. The painting screams. Valak bursts through. He grabs Kate and Sophie, pulling them toward the exit. Just as Irene and Deborah arrive, Maurice tries to warn them. But Irene steps forward and yells at him to get away from them. Maurice freezes, confused. Irene tells him the truth. He's the vessel. The demon's been inside him since Saint Carta. Maurice is shattered. His body begins to twist, contort, then stills. He lifts his head. "Hello, sister," says Valak. He calmly turns and walks into the chapel. Irene follows, and is slammed into a glass wall. Deborah tries to help but is tossed aside. Irene grabs the rosary and begins to pray. For a moment, it works. Maurice weakens. Deborah seizes the chance, grabs a stick, and knocks him out. They chain him up. Back with Kate and Sophie, they ask what's in there. Kate tells them, it's the old chapel. They go inside. Irene believes the relic is buried beneath it. A clue must be here. Sophie's eyes land on the stained glass, the demonic goat. She tells them about the game the kids play. When the light hits just right, the goat's eyes glow red, and that means the devil is watching. Deborah rushes outside to throw light on it. Sophie positions Irene inside. The red glow returns. Irene traces the beam. It lands on one spot on the chapel floor. She steps onto it. They begin to dig. Outside, Maurice stirs. Inside, Sophie looks again at the stained glass. The goat's still there, but now outside, Maurice's chains are empty. She looks again. The goat in the window is gone too. Back in the dorms, one of the bully girls hears footsteps above. Nervous, she wakes her friend and urges her to check it out. Deborah, walking back, hears the same footsteps overhead. Inside the chapel, Irene and Kate uncover something beneath the stone floor, St. Lucy's eyes. Meanwhile, the girl in the dorm steps into the hallway. Deborah arrives at the bottom of the staircase just in time. She raises her flashlight and sees it. The goat demon on the top floor lets out a shriek and charges. Deborah bolts up, grabs the girl, and pulls her into the room. She slams the door shut, but the attack continues. The girls are hurled across the room by an unseen force. The door bursts open. One girl is dragged toward it, screaming. Deborah grabs her, holding on tightly, trying to pull her back. Furniture crashes and lights flicker. Deborah quickly leads the girls to another room. Meanwhile, Irene and Kate hear distant screams from the chapel. Kate turns to help, but Maurice steps from the shadows, slams her aside, and tackles Irene. He smashes her head against the stone floor until St. Lucy's relic slips from her hand. Gripping her throat, he prepares to end it, but Sophie grabs the relic and runs. Maurice drops Irene and stalks after her, chasing her toward the old bell tower. Upstairs, Deborah hides with the girls in a small room. The lights flicker. Then, footsteps. The bully girl finds a vent leading to the principal's office. She peers through it. Cockroaches crawl everywhere, and the principal is standing there. Then, a pale hand bursts out, grabs her, and drags her in. Deborah pulls back desperately, only to see the principal's ghostly face, lifeless, covered in bugs. Screaming, Deborah and the girls flee. Sophie climbs the bell tower and hides beneath a wooden platform, clutching the relic. Maurice enters, voice eerily calm, calling her name. "Sophie, it's me. I'd never hurt you." The relic begins to glow in her arms. Maurice halts, then, with a demonic shriek, lunges at her. The relic explodes with energy, hurting him and giving Sophie just enough time to run. Irene sees the tower shaking. Inside, Sophie flees as the central bell crashes down, splitting the floor. She ends up stranded on a broken wooden beam that suddenly snaps, now hanging from a rope. As she dangles, Maurice climbs up and grabs her, just as the wood gives way. He falls. Trembling, Sophie climbs to safety and runs. Outside, Deborah and the girls escape the boarding house. Deborah rushes to the tower. Inside, Irene finds Sophie and the relic, but Maurice is there too. Valak still controls him. Irene pushes Sophie aside and raises the relic. Maurice stops mid-step, black liquid pouring from his entire face as the wind howls violently. Sophie begs Irene to stop. Deborah arrives and holds Sophie back. Despite the pain, Irene won't let go. Maurice's real voice breaks through. "Sister, please, it's killing me." Then he collapses, lifeless. Irene kneels by him, crying. But suddenly, his hand grabs hers. Deborah tries to intervene, but Maurice rises. He takes the relic. It burns in his grip, then vanishes in flame. His eyes glow. He laughs. Wind howls. Lights across the grounds flicker violently. In the chapel, the girls huddle with Kate, who asks where Sophie is. Back in the tower, dust spins. The storm rages, and through it, she appears. The nun, Valak, glowing eyes, pure evil. Kate and the girls step into the hallway. The lights die, then, it appears, at the end of the corridor. The devil, and in a flash, it charges. Screaming, they slam the chapel doors shut just as it crashes into them. Irene tries to pray, raising her rosary. But Valak lashes a chain around Deborah's neck. Irene struggles to pull it off. Sophie hides behind wine barrels, only to be surrounded by silent nuns from the front and the back. Panicking, she crawls through a gap. Maurice grabs at her from the dark. She escapes again. Irene's still trying to free Deborah, but Valak raises her higher. In a crucifix position, inside the chapel, the girls barricade the door. All falls silent, until the devil's horns pierce through, straight into the bully girl's chest. They all run deeper inside, with the demon watching them. They all run to the main hall as the shadows run around the walls. Back in the tower, the nun grins. Irene's body suddenly bursts into flames. She screams, glowing, then slips into another vision. Her mother's voice, past flashes, and finally, Lorraine Warren. Irene's eyes snap open, glowing for a second. At the same time, Deborah breaks free. The fire around Irene vanishes. She collapses into the wine. Valak snarls and hurls a sharp metal shard, but Deborah dives, saving Irene just in time. They hide behind barrels. Deborah whispers, "That was a miracle." Then they notice the wine leaking across the floor. Sophie runs into the open, but wooden spikes shoot from the ground, separating her from Irene and Deborah. Maurice steps out, possessed, wielding a jagged tool. He approaches Sophie, ready to strike, but hesitates, glances toward Valak. Irene looks to Deborah and tells her to pray. They drop their hands into the wine and begin. Images flash. Irene's mother. Their journey. Then, amen. The barrels explode. A flood of wine crashes through the cellar. It slams into Valak, drenching Maurice too. But now, it's no longer wine. It's the blood of Christ. Valak screams. It ignites on fire. The spikes vanish. Maurice collapses. Above, Kate sees the stained glass. The goat has returned. Back in the cellar, Sophie escapes. Irene and Deborah hold Maurice, his body hurting as Valak burns. Kate and the girls rush into the yard. Sophie runs into her mother's arms. Inside, the flames die. Maurice gasps, he's back. He looks to Irene and whispers, "Thank you." The next morning, Irene steps out with Maurice. He checks on his tomato plants. Then Kate and Sophie appear and Sophie runs to hug him. As they walk back to the school, Maurice stops. Turns back. Irene stands in the yard. They exchange a nod and he walks inside. The movie comes to an end. In mid-credits scene, we see the Warrens' home. The phone rings. Ed answers it and it's Father Gordon. A new case. No context. No clues where this fits. Just a call, and the feeling something bigger is coming. Now, if you followed the series and haven't watched the movies yet, don't worry if it didn't make total sense. This mid-credit scene isn't essential. As for those of you who have watched the movies, interpret this scene any way you want. And that's the Nun II, another chapter closed. But the story's far from over. The timeline's getting darker, and next, we leave the Abbeys and enter a home. One that never should have had that doll. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on the bell icon because Annabelle is next. I'll be breaking it down with the same tone, same depth, and same style this whole series is built on. This isn't just a movie marathon, it's an exorcism of the entire Conjuring universe. This was Plot Explained, and I'll see you in the next one.